Welcome to the Health Stuff You Need to Know podcast. Information you need to thrive in our toxic modern world. I'm your host, Scott W. Kirkland. I hope you're ready because it is go time with the Wellness Web. Yeah! Welcome everyone to the show. Today's guest is Charity Parkinson. She is a clinical herbalist and a holistic nutrition coach. She is very passionate about natural medicine and has been studying in the field for over 15 years with experience in health food, retail, sales, herbal education, and clinical consultations. She is currently writing, researching, and teaching people about herbal medicine, nutrition, and premium supplements for optimal health. Her belief in achieving and maintaining whole body wellness comes through finding and supporting one's unique balance between the mental, emotional, physical, and spiritual aspects of life. All right, Charity, glad to have you on the show.
So happy to be here. Thanks so much, Scott.
You're welcome. My pleasure. So, just about everyone these days has had a health challenge. Please share a health challenge you have been through, how you managed it, what you learned, and what you think someone in the same position needs to know.
That is such a great question. I feel like I've had several health challenges, but I will say that the most important one, the most important lesson that I've learned from a variety of them, of health issues that have come up, is that the mind and body is very deeply connected. And so whatever you're experiencing on a physical level often has some sort of tie to the emotional and mental aspects of yourself as well. Sometimes people don't want to admit that, but actually that is definitely a part of any healing crisis or any physical condition that's happening in the body. I would like to share that other than that, outside of that, the most important thing on a physical level is often the gut. And we know now that the root of all disease will often lie in the gut. And so we need to make sure that we take care of our digestive health, no matter how big or small of an issue that is going on for us. And from there, we can start to rebalance the body. And so that's a major focus of my work.
Okay. So has there any particular health challenge that you've been through that you would like to share?
Yeah, I would say being diagnosed with celiac disease a few years ago was a big one for me because it was just a huge surprise. I never ate a lot of gluten to begin with, and then suddenly I had antibodies that were off the charts, off the record. The numbers were so high. And so that was something that really woke me up, and it affected me in a big way because it meant that my gut really wasn't as healthy as I thought it was. And from there were other health challenges that came. So that took me a little bit of time to heal and rebalance from. And there's still some healing going on from that. When somebody has an underlying chronic health condition like celiac disease going on, often they don't know for years until suddenly they have some kind of a symptom, or it may even just randomly appear on a blood test. And then they start to connect the dots of what other things have been going on with them. And so that was exactly what my experience was. And it called me to action on a number of areas in my life to really get back into balance again and create more healing in my body. So it's been a journey. It's definitely been a journey.
Could you explain to my audience, for those who don't know, what celiac is?
Sure. The celiac disease is essentially an allergy to gluten, but it's not an anaphylactic allergy like people know of with shellfish or peanuts. This is an IgA response that means that you're not going to die immediately after consuming the gluten, but you do have a serious immune reaction. And so what happens is it signals certain enzymes in your gut to not only attack the gluten that it sees as foreign and pathogenic, but it also attacks the lining of the small intestinal tract as well. So your body starts attacking itself after you've consumed the gluten. And this can go on for some people without even having a negative digestive symptom. it could be going on under the surface without them even knowing. And sometimes there's other symptoms like headaches or joint pain, brain fog. And for other people, it'll be quite serious diarrhea or gastrointestinal pain. So it depends on the person.
Wow. I think I should probably get myself checked then, because you don't really know, right, until you actually get a test.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And you do need to be eating the gluten before you get the test. So you don't want to be on a gluten-free diet before going in for the blood test, because you may not register as accurately. Yeah,
I personally have been cutting out wheat and gluten anyways, just as precaution, but I'm not gluten-free. And my understanding is that there's gluten in so many different processed things. Like even if you go to a restaurant, like you're bound to be getting it anyways, even if you try not to. Like it's a real challenge to be completely gluten-free. Like it's almost impossible.
Yeah,
really.
It really is. I mean, speaking from somebody who's a celiac, so I really go out of my way to avoid gluten. And still, it somehow gets into my diet in traces, because my antibodies still register here and there, and we don't have gluten in our household whatsoever. So, and rarely do I go out for dinner even. So it's difficult to avoid. You would be surprised as to how many places gluten is found.
What would you recommend to someone who just recently got diagnosed with celiac disease to try and help them deal with that?
I would say that they basically look for a local celiac association. Most major cities will have one, so you can just Google that online. It's a good place to start because they have a lot of information and resources. Sometimes they'll have postings of gluten-free, celiac-friendly restaurants in the neighborhood or in the cities. So that's a good place to start. They'll also have a list of common packaged foods and processed foods that gluten will be found in, and then often there'll be a list of ones that are safe as well. So, for shopping and things like that, and for go-to brands, that's a good place to start. There'll also be education there on what to do, how to deal with that with family members, and who else maybe should get tested in your family, and that kind of thing. So it's a good support network, and most major cities will have some sort of celiac friendly association.
Fantastic. Thank you very much.
Welcome.
All right. I'm just going to move on to my second question. I do appreciate you sharing that with us. So the whole premise of this podcast is that the modern world that we live in is highly toxic and it's rapidly changing. There's so many things that are just off the rails, going nuts. And so this question is, in light of that fact that we have all this change going on and we have all this toxicity, what do you think is the number one health concern you think people need to know about?
Oh, that's such a good question. To narrow it down to one, and I fully agree, we have to start with that. We have to start with one thing, because otherwise if we just, realize that there's, maybe 20 or more things that need to be changed all at once, it's too much. So if I were to look at one major thing would be, I would probably say let's start by drinking clean water. Our bodies are made up of at least 70% water. It does vary on the individual and the age of the person, but it means that all of our cells contain water, and we need to keep water in our system to flush out toxins and to basically keep ourselves healthy, to keep ourselves eliminating properly so we can flush out toxins not only through the liver and the kidneys, through the bladder, but also through the colon. And so that would be the main thing. So we want to be drinking pure water so that we can be flushing toxins out. And we also want to make sure that water is pure and clean, because we don't want to be bringing more toxins in. And depending on where you are in the world, different compounds, different toxins will be coming through the water, such as fluoride, which is hard on the body. Chlorine, of course, that's hard on the body as well. And oftentimes there's even medications found coming through the water systems. There can be heavy metals coming in depending on the pipes. So I would say water would be the first thing to address.
Absolutely. I completely agree. In this toxic modern world, detox is so important. It's so fundamental that we aid our body or try and help our body to eliminate taking in more toxins, but also help it to flush out the toxins.
Mm-hmm.
And water is absolutely the foundation right there. As a herbalist, do you recommend taking any supplements for aiding in detox, or do you recommend people do cleanses of any kind, or is that something that you do or would recommend?
Yes, I would recommend a cleanse, and I would also recommend certain select herbs on a regular basis as well. So in terms of a herbal cleanse, there's different ones out there on the market. I like the ones that include liquid extracts, because they're much more easy to assimilate into the system, and so they're easy on the digestive system when we know they're getting into the bloodstream because they're coming in through the mouth under the tongue, and so they're the most effective way to do a cleanse. Oftentimes that'll be a cleanse program for a couple of weeks where you're cutting out, sugar, dairy, gluten, flours, that kind of thing, and you're incorporating these herbs to help facilitate different organ systems to detoxify. These herbs will contain compounds that support those organ systems to detoxify, but also they'll help with providing trace minerals, providing naturally occurring antioxidants. There's many different wonderful healing compounds that you find in plants. So that's one way that I like to work. And for some people, that might be a cleanse that they do once or twice a year. For other people, they may choose to do it every season. For other people, they may not be in a vital enough state to actually do a full cleanse, and they're better off to just start slowly with some liver herbs, for example, to support the liver detox. And as you support liver, the liver will help to stimulate the colon so that the waste is being eliminated properly with bitter herbs.
Excellent. That's great advice. So the next question I got for you is, I'm curious to know what you're excited about in the health and wellness world right now. What's got you fired up, or something you find really interesting, or something along those lines?
Yeah, great question. I would say that fermentation has got me really excited, and basically in connection with the gut microbiome. So there's been a lot of research going on in the Human Gut Microbiome Project, and we've discovered that actually the bacteria in our gut makes up about 99% of our genes and our gene expression, which is amazing because the bacteria cells are actually outnumbering human cells about 10 to 1. So we've got tons of bacteria within our body that we've evolved with and come in through our mouth for the most part, and also on our skin. And so they're populating like a large percentage of our digestive system as well as other areas of our body. Every single organ system has some level of a bacteria culture there. And the whole system we call the microbiome, the human microbiome. So that's just really exciting because we're learning not only are these bacteria influencing the genetic expressions in our body, but on a day-to-day basis, they're actually influencing how we think, the decisions we make, whether we're risk takers or whether we're more reserved, whether we're fat or whether we're thin, whether an autoimmune condition gets turned on or not, many different things that are being controlled by these bacteria. So for me, that's the most exciting thing. The fermentation bit comes in because, of course, fermented foods, fermented herbs, fermented beverages, they basically contribute different strains of good bacteria to our body, and they're essential to help keep that diversity going in our systems.
Brilliant. Actually, I was shocked to learn that the bacteria in our guts can actually influence our behavior. It sends chemical signals and electrical signals to our brain and can influence what we do. Recently, I've been overcoming an addiction to McDonald's foods, which is embarrassed to say, but it's true. And I'm about 3 months now. I haven't even touched the stuff. And I think part of what made it so hard is that I think I actually changed my microbiome so that it actually wanted that type of food. And now that I've gone long enough without it, I believe my microbiome has changed, and so I don't really crave it at all anymore. And so it's really incredible what's going on in our guts, and it's true. I'm very excited about all the knowledge that's coming forth with that. It's amazing. That's a really interesting time to be alive.
Amazing. Well, what a great story, because I think that'll give other people encouragement to be able to overcome their addictions as well.
Thank you. So another question for you. What would you say is the best health advice that you've ever received?
Oh boy, yes, that is a great question too, only because I've been in this field of practice for about 20 years now. So you can imagine I've met a lot of interesting people and a lot of wise people in this holistic field, teachers and even clients that I've had that have taught me things. So it's a really good question to say what the most important thing is. I would probably have to say that it comes back to the understanding and the lesson that our whole body is connected on a mental, emotional, spiritual, and physical level. And so really understanding that none of that is separate is probably the biggest, most important thing I could share with anybody, because some people are struggling with one area of their life and they feel that that they need to work hard to change that area in order for them to be healthy. And so let's say we've got lots of people out there these days who are health nuts even, and they're trying so hard to, even myself, I just really love to eat a good diet. It's so important to me not to have any junk in there or what I would call toxins or poisons from our environment and chemicals that are added to foods and things. And so you work so hard on that level and you expect your health to be perfect, and yet still there might be, and in my case I've had this as well, where health challenges will come up anyways. And so I think the most important thing that I've learned is that if you're, feeling stressed, or if you're not fully satisfied with one area of your life, or, if something just feels like it's missing, then it's important to look at that and not to think that what's going on in your mind and your heart are any less important than what's going on in your physical body, because they're not. They're all so interconnected. Does that make sense?
Absolutely, and I know exactly what you mean, because one of my personal health challenges was chronic back pain, and to the point where I'd be like laid out in excruciating pain for up to 3 weeks at a time. And it turns out that it wasn't actually a physical ailment. It's actually a psychological, emotional event. And I discovered a fellow named Dr. Sarno, if anyone's out there that is in the same condition and wants to give it a shot. And but it really shows that the power of the mind, and it's not just the conscious mind, it's the subconscious that's going on. There's so much going on underneath that we really can't peer into. Like we think we're just this, like the voice that's talking to you now, this conscious mind, but there's a whole nother ocean of stuff going on underneath that you can't. Well, there are ways to tap into it, but the power is just immense.
It truly is, absolutely. And I think this is going to be something that the world is going to be focusing on more going forward, because I think it's becoming more and more recognized. And so there's more, apps out there on mindfulness, right? And connecting with your heart and your mind as well as your body. And so I think this is going to become increasingly more popular, which is great, because it's really just going to help people on a deeper level if they find that this information is more accessible.
Absolutely. I've also find that there are techniques that you can literally tap into the subconscious with. You've probably heard of EFT, emotional freedom technique, or tapping. Yes. And like for me, there's debate about why it works. It's people that try it know that it works. I've tried it, and it certainly has worked for me. I think it's a way to kind of tap into that subconscious and make changes that you want. It's like using your conscious, rational mind to actually program your subconscious mind. So very powerful and very useful. So I definitely recommend people out there check that out.
Yes, there's a lot of credibility to the EFT if you do some research. That's fantastic.
Yeah. So I'd like to ask you another question. I would like you to tell me or share a personal health habit that contributes to your excellent health.
Yeah, that's another good question. You definitely make me think about some of the most important things that I feel that are important in life, and that's definitely one of them, is connecting to something that's important to you. So for me, I would say the most important thing is to basically consume super nutrient dense foods on a regular basis. So I make sure that, every meal of the day is packed with nutrition. And, I'm not saying that I'm perfect in any way, but I always have a really great breakfast. I think that's an important way to start the day. That is packed with vegetables and protein, like I'll do an egg, but I'll also have, beets and carrots and zucchini and avocado, and I'll top that off with some sauerkraut and make my own homemade dressing with apple cider vinegar and olive oil. So keeping things simple, but choosing the ingredients that I know have value. And then I always have a smoothie every day as well, where I can get in more of my greens, because greens are such a fundamental nutrient-dense food group that we really need to eat more of in order to help our bodies detoxify and in order to increase our antioxidant support and antioxidant compounds. So I also include fish oil in there as well to get those omega-3s for my brain health and to reduce inflammation. So I just find that, starting with a couple of important things like that, like a good breakfast and a smoothie in the first half of the day, really keeps my energy up, and it makes my digestion feel great, and it gives me the energy to work and to raise a young baby and to have the energy to go for a walk as well later on in the day and to be able to work again at nighttime. I feel that's probably what sets me up for a good day.
I agree, actually. It's a classic. People have been saying that breakfast is the most important meal of the day for years. And for me, I totally agree. It's common sense to me that you want to start your day, fill up with fantastic, load up on nutrients, and because that's what's going to be digested, and that's what's going to fuel you through the day. So if you start your day with orange juice and pancakes and bagels and other crap, you can't expect to have a good day. You expect that you're going to get an energy rush, and then you're going to crash, and then you're going to be hungry and irritable, and then you'll probably go through the cycle again. So starting the day with a great breakfast, absolutely love it.
We're on the same page.
We are on the same page. So do you take, you did mention some of the supplements that you took. So you mentioned fish oil. You take a greens powder. Is that what you meant by greens? Or
I do, exactly. I do include greens, such as sometimes it'll be steamed kale, or sometimes it'll be spinach. So, but I also include a greens powder, and I mix it up. Sometimes it'll be a spirulina powder or a chlorella powder. Sometimes it'll be a green mixed powder from a company that's included several different greens in there. And these days I've been doing something called moringa leaf, which is a leaf that comes out of, I believe it's Africa, that part of the world, and it's just super mineral dense. Nutrient dense, so it's very alkalizing, packs a lot of antioxidants into a small serving, and it's gluten-free, of course, so that's important for me.
Oh, fantastic. Have you noticed a difference once you started taking it?
I would say so. I really notice a difference after I have my smoothie in the morning, and I always put that greens in there, and I just feel that it just makes me feel fresh and clear and ready to go, and because everything's broken down quite nicely in there through the pureeing, making the smoothie, it's just so nice on the digestion as well.
Nice. So you've kind of hinted a bit, but I wanted to ask you, what type of diet do you follow?
I would say a plant-based diet. Plants, vegetables are definitely the primary nutrient or primary food group in my diet. And then I also eat meats and fish as well, but I always choose the humanely raised meats and pasture fed as much as possible, always organic. And that's the most important thing for me. So I like whole foods, and I don't pertain to only vegetables or only meat or anything like that. And I have a mix of those, and then I also do some grains. But that's a very small percentage of my diet. And of course, there are gluten-free grains as well.
Fantastic. And another question for you. Do you follow any particular type of exercise regime?
Well, my favorite exercise is called TRX. It's a suspension training exercise that involves ropes and handles, basically a rope that's thrown around a bar. You can look it up. TRX is a lot of fun. It's great exercise because you're using your own body weight to as a resistance, and it just really fits well for me. And then I also like to go for walks, and preferably in nature, and just so that I can get the experience of nature at the same time, the fresh air, that Zen kind of experience while getting some exercise on a daily basis.
Absolutely. I find that with an exercise regime, you have to find something. Like, exercise is just so important. You got to do it. It's common knowledge how good it is for you. There's no doubting that whatsoever. But you got to find something that you actually enjoy, because if you don't enjoy it, you're going to dread going to do it, and it's just not going to happen. You're going to put it off. So I'm so glad you found something. TRX. So if that's fun. So if there's people out there that are looking for something, give it a try. Go to they do classes, right?
They do classes, and once you learn what you're doing, you can just get your own TRX and do videos. There's tons of YouTube videos. You can do it at home if you didn't have the time to go to a class.
Nice. And it's also very portable, right? The rig is it fits into like a small bag, right? You could take it traveling.
Absolutely. I brought it with me to Costa Rica. So,
oh, wow. You took it to Costa Rica.
Yeah. It came with me to Costa Rica, and I did it poolside. So.
Awesome. I could just picture that.
It's pretty sweet.
All right. So we're coming close to the close of the episode, and I got one more question for you. I always like to end on a positive note. Mm-hmm. And it is, what is the good news about achieving excellent health in our modern world?
The good news about it is that it makes you feel more empowered, because, you're always going to hear about the bad things going on around you. And it's important for us to be aware of those things so that we can take action and do something to mitigate the negatives that are around us in our space. So the positive is that you learn something, you learn more about your environment, you learn what you can do to support yourself, which is very empowering. And then you're able to teach that to other people as well, because by example, when you start to look better, feel better, you create an energy about yourself, and other people are attracted to that, and they want to know what you've done. So by extension, you end up not only helping yourself, but helping others to be healthier, happier people. Absolutely.
I've experienced that myself, when it just seems people will come up and ask me health advice and assume that I know my stuff, because they can just tell by looking at me that I've got, skin without any blemishes, and, fit, lean and muscular. But yeah, it absolutely does inspire others to do the same, because people will ask me just on this, at work or on the street, or even they'll come up and ask. So yeah, very cool. Very, very empowering.
Absolutely, and it never hurts to get a compliment, so that's always a nice thing too.
I love it. Fantastic. Well, thank you so much, Charity. It's been a pleasure to have you with me. That is Charity Parkinson, and you have a great rest of your day.
Thank you so much. It's been a fantastic interview with you.
It's been fun. I've enjoyed this. Okay. All righty.
Bye for now.
Bye for now. We have reached the end of this episode. I hope you have found a piece of information you can use to improve your life or the life of your loved ones with. If you feel that I've helped you in some way, I ask that you help me in return. Liking, rating, reviewing, sharing, and or subscribing all help me rise in the search engine rankings, so I can reach and help even more people. Subscribing being the most important one. Thanks in advance. As always, I will continue to bring you the health stuff you need to know.